Oh, so you think all of this is just a coincidence, huh?
That lingering glance that stays a second too long, as if she's lost track of time and space. Those out-of-place smiles like she shared an inside joke and you're the only one who didn't get it.
And those questions?
Oh, yes. So personal it feels like she's filling out a disguised Tinder profile under the guise of casual conversation. Coincidence? Or is that married lady's mind wandering miles beyond the friendship line? Today, my friend, I'm going to lay out the 7 clear signs that she might be interested in you. And spoiler alert, these signs don't lie. In fact, they're screaming. When a married woman starts introducing another man into the equation, she leaves behind a trail of clues so obvious that even a telenovela detective would be embarrassed to ignore them. The problem is, are you noticing, or are you going to keep pretending it's all just your paranoia? If you've already felt that strange chill because you realize she's looking at you like she's evaluating the day's menu, or noticed behaviors that seem riskier than crossing the street on a red light, congratulations. Maybe you're right, and it's best to watch until the end, because I'm going to open your eyes to the reality. Spoiler, it might be uncomfortable, and teach you how to handle it. Oh, and before you think you're too special, let's agree on something. This video only exists because someone was kind enough to like and subscribe. So don't be that parasite who only consumes without contributing. Do your part. Click that like button, subscribe, and comment a thanks algorithm, because it's not for me. It's for the system that decides if more people get a chance to watch this. It's the least you can do, buddy. Now enough with the beating around the bush. Let's get straight to the point and find out if you're really on her radar or if you're just thinking too highly of yourself. Number 1, prolonged eye contact. Have you ever felt like someone is dissecting you with their eyes? Not that trivial look, like check out the coffee line, but one that scans you as if decoding a secret code. Well, my friend, that's the look that says it all. If a married woman is interested, her eyes will give you more clues than any seduction manual. She'll stare at you with an intensity that goes beyond comfortable. Not because she's creepy, but because the message is being sent in neon. There's something going on here, do you notice? And the best, or worst, depending on your perspective part, she'll do this in public without mercy. While the rest of the group laughs and chats, her eyes will be locked on you, only occasionally looking away to maintain that casual act. Now, if her husband is around, oh, that's when it gets even more fun. It's a high-stakes game. She maintains eye contact as if to say, "See, I'm risking everything here, right?" A silent exchange that only the two of you can understand. And there's more. It's not just in obvious moments. She'll seek your eyes in the most random contexts. During a lame joke someone told while listening to another person speak, or even while taking a sip of wine. What she's saying without words is something like, "Hey, focus here. I'm calling you without words, but I hope you're smart enough to understand." Want a classic example? Dinner scene. The table is full, everyone engaged in conversation, and you, unsuspecting, look up. There she is, watching you from the corner, with that discreet smile that says more than 1,000 speeches. Coincidence? It sure seems like it. And don't be fooled thinking this is just a mental trick. This eye contact is an invitation, a green light for possible next steps. It's as if she's silently shouting, "I'm here, so are you going to do something about it?" But hold on. This is just the beginning of the game. When words come into play to accompany this visual flirting, then, my friend, you'll be sure that her interest has moved past the just looking phase. Number 2, innocent. Touches that say more than they should. If the glance is the trailer, the touch is the movie starting. And don't be mistaken, these casual touches are anything but accidental. When a married woman is flirting, she'll find ways to break the physical barrier without seeming obvious, but only to those not paying attention. Maybe she gives that little laugh, a bit exaggerated by the way, and touches your arm because apparently her humor needs physical support. Or, better yet, her hand accidentally finds yours while you're both reaching for the same object. How convenient, right? But no, these gestures are disguised messages, and their frequency doesn't lie. When it happens all the time, it's long past a coincidence. The touch is her chemistry test. It's the let's see if he notices and how he reacts in gesture form. She won't push boundaries right away, of course. In the beginning, everything is calculatedly subtle. An arm held while asking for help with something, which she probably could do alone. Or that lean to fix something near you, pure excuse to shorten the distance. Now picture this. You're at a social or professional event. Everyone's relaxed. You say something that makes her laugh, and there comes her hand on your shoulder. But it's not a quick pat. It's one that lasts a little longer than necessary. Seems innocent? Maybe to the rest of the crowd, but between the two of you, the message is loud and clear. I'm comfortable with you, and maybe too comfortable for my marital status. Want an infallible test? Notice if she does this with others around. Spoiler, usually she doesn't. That frequency and physical proximity are personalized for you. A questionable privilege, but a privilege nonetheless. Oh, and don't think these touches will stay in the casual phase. They evolve. Today it's the arm. Tomorrow it's a longer touch on the leg while you're sitting and talking. And that cliché gesture of brushing something invisible off your face? Classic. It's as if she's saying, I'm scouting the territory. Are you enjoying the ride? And while you're trying to figure out if you're reading too much into it, she's already preparing the next step, turning that physical touch into a much more direct verbal interest. Number 3, sudden interest in your life. If the glances and touches still left you in doubt, this one is impossible to ignore. When a married woman decides to study you as if you're a science project, you can bet something's out of the ordinary. She doesn't just want to know if you're okay or how work was. No, that would be too shallow. She wants to delve into your life, explore your passions, and discover what makes you tick. Suddenly, her questions go beyond the basic script and enter the tell me your biography level. What's your favorite hobby? What do you usually do on Sundays? By any chance, is there someone special in your life? Each question comes with that sparkle in her eyes that screams, tell me everything, because I'm genuinely interested, and maybe too interested. And don't think she's just asking. She remembers. Oh, she'll remember that you mentioned 3 weeks ago that you like suspense movies, and she'll casually bring up, oh, I saw a new movie out. It's right up your alley. Have you seen it? Seems innocent? Sure, but the level of attention to detail is spy-worthy. A classic example, you casually mention you enjoy cooking. Another day, she drops, I saw an amazing recipe that suits you. What's your favorite dish to make? But it's not about the recipe. It's about keeping the conversation centered around you, your universe, your preferences, your vulnerabilities. Now pay attention to the compliments. They come disguised as casual comments. You're so dedicated, not everyone is like that these days. Or, wow, you pay attention to details, that's rare. Translation? I'm analyzing you and I like what I see. And this kind of interest doesn't come out of nowhere. She's mapping the emotional terrain, creating a bond that seems innocent, but is turning into a bridge. And why, you ask? To take the relationship to a level where we starts appearing in her conversations. If you think that's all, wait until she decides to keep in touch outside the environment where you normally interact. Messages at odd hours, casual jokes, or a random thought of you. And that, my friend, is when things really heat up. This is the next sign you need to be prepared to recognize. Number 4, messages at odd hours and suspicious indirect hints. If live flirting is already becoming evident, now it's her turn to enter your head through messages. Because of course, if she's interested, she won't be content to interact only when you're face to face. WhatsApp, Instagram, and even TikTok become stages for a show of, "I'll disguise it, but not too much." At first, everything seems casual. She sends that meme she found so you, or asks about something irrelevant, like, "Do you remember the name of that place they mentioned the other day?" But gradually, the frequency of these messages increases, and the tone starts to change. And that's when you realize it's not about the meme. It's about the fact that she thought of you to send it. The timing also gives it away. If she starts texting you late at night, or at times when, theoretically, she should be focused on her married life, it's a signal as discreet as a bright billboard. When the message is something like, "I dreamed about you, can you believe it?" or "This song reminds me of someone special," things have already moved out of the subtle zone and into the realm of blatant interest. And let's talk about indirect hints, because they're a classic. She posts phrases on her status or stories that seem innocent, but conveniently match something you discussed or your situation. Like, "Certain connections have no explanation." Or, "Sometimes life puts special people in our path." Does it seem like she's philosophizing? Maybe, but you know the target of these reflections is you. A classic example. It's Saturday night, you're chilling, and your phone vibrates. A message from her. "Check out this video, thought you'd laugh." Is the video funny? It might be, but what matters is that she thought of you when she should be watching a movie with her husband. And when the conversation starts to include venting about her marriage. There you go, the advanced level of disguised flirting. Phrases like, "Sometimes I feel like my husband doesn't understand me," or "It's hard to find someone who really listens, you know," are more than just venting. They're invitations for you to enter the emotional space she's creating. If you've reached this point, my friend, congratulations. You've officially moved from being a friendly colleague to her new emotional hobby. And things only get more serious from here, because now she might start comparing you to her life, which is the next sign on the radar. Number 5, complaints about her husband. Now things are getting serious. If up to here you thought it was just harmless flirting or a fleeting connection, welcome to the phase where masks start to drop. When she starts talking badly about her husband, it's not just venting, it's practically an official announcement that things are falling apart at home. And guess what? You're the privileged listener. At first, these complaints come disguised as casual comments. "He's been so distant lately," or "Sometimes I feel like he doesn't understand me anymore," are the classics. Seems innocent, right? But it's just the warm-up. She's testing the waters to see if you bite the bait, if you show empathy, or better yet, if you take the opportunity to deepen the emotional bond. And it doesn't take long for these grievances to turn into monologues. From recurring fights to neglect, even intimate details that should stay between them. Everything becomes a topic. And you know why? Because by letting you into this side of her life, she's basically saying, "I trust you more than my husband, and maybe I'd rather talk to you than to him." A classic example. You're chatting, and she drops something like, "Sometimes I wonder if he still cares about me," followed by a deep look at you, almost as if she's expecting you to say, "If he doesn't value you, someone else surely would." It's practically an invitation for you to be her emotional hero. And why does she do this? First, because she's creating an emotional intimacy bond that her husband clearly isn't offering. Second, because it justifies, in her mind, her interest in you. After all, I'm not the one who's wrong, he's the one who doesn't pay attention to me. Now, pay attention to the detail that really matters. She's not complaining about this to anyone else. The venting isn't going to the group of friends or a therapist. It's going to you. This puts you in a special position that in practice is an emotional minefield. And don't be fooled, these conversations almost never stop there. The next step, invitations for private meetings. Oh, of course, innocent meetings. But none of that is as innocent as she tries to make it seem. And that's what we'll talk about in the next sign. Number 6, invitations to innocent meetings. Here's where subtle flirting starts to turn into practical action. After all the emotional drama, the glances, touches, and odd-hour messages, she finally finds an excuse to create one-on-one moments. And of course, the invitation comes wrapped in innocence that you can almost believe. Almost. These invitations will never seem suspicious at first glance. She'll suggest something like grabbing a coffee, discussing an important matter, or asking for your help with something that, curiously, only you can resolve. The goal? To create a situation where you can be alone, away from prying eyes, and preferably without anyone to ask awkward questions afterward. Classic example. I really need help with that project, and I think you're the perfect person for it. Can we talk after work? It sounds professional, almost normal, but the real point of this meeting is the private setting. The coffee or the casual conversation is just the backdrop. And if you hesitate, don't worry. She has a ready-made excuse. Something like, "It's just a quick thing, I promise." It'll be very informal. Because of course, insisting on the meeting while maintaining the guise of innocence is part of the plan. Now, pay attention to the details. If the invitation is to an unusual place, like a cafe on the other side of town or at a time that doesn't make sense, the intentions become even more obvious. She's testing how far you'll go and setting the stage to move the relationship from the emotional plane to something, let's say, more tangible. And don't think this is random. These invitations are calculated. First, she wants to see how you react to this intimacy in a more isolated context. Second, she's putting you to the test. Will you bite the bait or back off? But here's the real turning point. If these meetings start becoming frequent or happening at times and contexts that clearly have nothing innocent about them, congratulations, you're officially in dangerous territory. Because once she realizes you're not resisting, the next steps won't depend on invitations anymore. Prepare yourself. The final sign is when she drops any pretext and decides it's time to stop playing games. Number 7, bold actions in public or private. If you've made it this far and still think it's all a misunderstanding, sorry to inform you, you're denying the obvious. When a married woman reaches the point of crossing lines in public or private, the friendship disguise has been thrown out the window. Now, she's in calculated risk mode, and the target is you. In public settings, her boldness comes disguised as charm. A touch longer than necessary, that smile that borders on indecent, or double entendre jokes that make others laugh without understanding, but you catch them instantly. She might even throw glances that, on their own, say, "You know what I want, right?" But it's in private where things get really interesting, or dangerous, depending on your perspective. Compliments that were once generic become specific and direct, like, "You're so different from other men, so special." Or better yet, she starts comparing you to her husband in a way that practically places you as the perfect prototype of what she believes she deserves. Practical example, you're alone and chatting, and she drops, "You know, sometimes I think I've made some wrong choices in life." The translation, "I want to see if you're brave enough to join me in this game." Another classic, she starts strategically changing her appearance. A more intense perfume, clothes that highlight everything she wants you to see, and gestures that exude intention. And before you ask, no, she doesn't do this with everyone. This act has a single audience, and you know who it is. And if this still seems half subtle to you, she might go straight to questions that tear down any facade. Do you think it's wrong for a married woman to feel attracted to another man? Or more directly, have you ever thought about how things would be if they were different? At this point, any pretense of innocence has been abandoned. This is the peak of her game, where flirting practically turns into a proposal. She's crossed all social and emotional barriers, and now she's in all or nothing mode. The issue now is no longer about her intentions. but about how you'll react. Because, my friend, when she reaches this level, the choice to cross the line or step back is entirely yours. What you do next defines how far this story will go. And, as you probably have noticed, this decision isn't as easy as it seems. Now that you know the 7 blatant signs that a married woman is putting you on her radar, the big question is, what are you going to do with it? These signs, from the hypnotizing glance to the strategically disguised innocent invitations, don't appear by chance. Each one is a way to pull you into her game, whether calculated or out of pure emotional need. But let's be real. This is a minefield, not a playground. No matter how seductive it seems, these games come at a price. The consequences can be emotional, social, or even dramatic, depending on who's involved and how much the situation escalates. Before embarking on this journey, ask yourself, is the chaos that might come with it worth it? Additionally, take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, what's my role in all this? You might be complicit in the confusion or the emotional savior she's seeking, but remember, saviors sometimes end up as victims. Recognizing the signs is the first step. Knowing when to back off can be the best choice you make. Now, I want to know, have you seen these signs in action? Have you been through a similar situation or dealt with the interest of a married woman? How did you handle it? Write in the comments and share your experience. It might help someone avoid a disaster or understand that they're not alone in this. And of course, do your part. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. This is your contribution to helping more people stay aware of situations like this. Because in the end, information is power, and in this case, the power to avoid huge problems. Until next time.